think they've known for a long time that the prairie provinces have been hotspots of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Tonight, City Hall in Saskatoon will pore over the entire report of the inquiry into missing women and girls to try and find solutions for the city.
I have a story to tell, and I just want to inspire other youth to tell theirs too.
A woman who was in foster care most of her life is telling the world about her experience through podcasts.
An ongoing crisis. It's been here for really decades, and it's growing and growing.
And a small community in Northern Ontario says addiction and mental health services are at a boiling point. Good evening, I'm Beverly Andrews. The autopsies have been conducted, and the RCMP is now confirming the identity of the two bodies found last week near Gillam, Manitoba, and how they died. The bodies were indeed those of Cam McLeod and Briar Schmagelski. Both had died of gunshot wounds. They were located deep in the bush near Gillam last week, ending a 3-week manhunt. The pair had been charged with the murder of a man from BC and were suspecting the deaths of an Australian-American couple. They are originally from Port Alberni, British Columbia. In Saskatchewan, the Mayor and City Council for the City of Saskatoon have a lot of important reading to do. That's because City Hall has been told to thoroughly go through the entire report from the inquiry into missing and murdered women and girls, and to come up with a plan on what the city can do to implement its recommendations. Priscilla Wolf explains.
It's 1,200 pages long, a long read but a vitally important one. The City of Saskatoon unanimously passed a motion in Chambers on July 29th for the entire City Council to read and review the report from the inquiry into missing women and girls. Saskatoon Mayor Charlie Clarke said it's important for them to do this right.
Whenever you have such a huge and wide-ranging report about an issue that's really important to our community, it affects many families in our community, and at the same time involves and requires a lot of understanding and exploration of a lot of the different aspects of your community in order to figure out how to make change and turn things around.
Mayor Clarke says the goal is to read the entire report by the end of the calendar year.
Not just give it a cursory glance and glance at the recommendations and then move on, but to understand the stories behind what went into that, and the thinking and the insights that were gained from families sharing their stories, and the deep kind of ways that colonization and racism and these structures have taken shape over time, and so that when thinking about how do we build towards change.
The 231 calls for justice, our recommendations for change, include creating an ombudsperson and tribunal for Indigenous and human rights. Darlene Okamason Sakat works with the Saskatoon-based Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women's group called Women Walking Together, and says it's important that city leaders take this initiative.
I think all the three mayors and their city council recognize that, and I think they've known for a long time that the prairie provinces have been hotspots of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. So I'm really glad the three minds are working together, and hopefully that they can invite other city councils in their provinces, because it's their major cities that are doing this.
Mayor Clarke says reading the report will be the first step. Then the hard work will really begin.
Having a review of it that's thoughtful and systematic, that looks at where are the touch points within municipal services, is to me the right way to help figure out how we can bring the community together, then take action on it.
Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Up in northern Saskatchewan at Pine River, in the Ilala Cross and Beauval area, a grassroots Métis group gathered to discuss the caribou decline there and how climate change is affecting the land. Participants of the 3-day caribou camp included Métis leaders, Métis elders, leaders and locals who grew up on the land. One of the coordinators on the camp says it's important to start a dialogue about the decline of the caribou. This will also help them to understand the other issues like climate change that are affecting their way of life up north.
It's an opportunity for us as our generation, as some of us that are getting a bit more wisdom and age under our belt, to help bring consciousness back to the importance of the land, the very many things that are impacting the land, whether it's climate change, whether it's some of our species are at risk of extinction, or another, a whole set of issues that might be facing us.
We want to hear what you think. Here's how to continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. Find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptnnews. You can also follow us on APT News Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages for more Indigenous news. Over to Victoria, British Columbia, where a young woman who grew up in foster care has taken to the internet to voice her concerns. The Kid Advocate podcast is a means to help her heal and inspire others in care. Lori Hamlin brings us her story.
Hi there, it's the Kid Advocate here.
Jordan Williams has an important story to share, and you can hear it on her podcast called The Kid Advocate. Williams is 19 years old and was in and out of care her entire life, until she aged out.
I have a story to tell, and I just want to inspire other youth to tell theirs too.
Jordan is part of the social media team at the Office of the Representative for Children and Youth in Victoria. Her podcast idea was sparked by a coworker and is based on her opinions and experiences with the foster care system.
I started off doing graphics, and then after my first podcast script, I just kept going along with it. And then still going on with it, we kind of created a series too where I tell my actual story instead of just all of my thoughts. That's where Just Run With It and Forgiveness come from. Those are like my life experiences, but like what I did to get through them.
Jordan's time in care wasn't always good or easy, and she's not afraid to talk about it.
Like at a very young age, I kind of learned how to like keep to myself and be quiet kind of thing. And it was kind of more so, it kind of felt like everyone else had power, and I kind of like kept it all inside. So like my podcast kind of like gets it all out kind of thing. Just all of these ideas and all of these things that I've kept in for years, I'm able to like get out.
Williams felt voiceless in care and says she hopes to inspire others struggling in the system.
I think it feels good to write them because like writing them is kind of like a huge relief, like knowing that I'm doing something with them and that hopefully my experience can inspire others to talk about their own. You don't need to be silenced. Everyone has a voice.
Jordan has recorded 8 episodes so far and doesn't plan on stopping anytime soon. You can hear what Jordan has to say by logging on to the Representative for Children and Youth's website. Lori Hamlin, APTN National News, Victoria.
Fresh off making a bid to host the World Pride in 2023, Montreal officially kicked off its Pride Festival with a reconciliation ceremony, aiming to be more inclusive of Indigenous and Two-Spirit people. Starting with a traditional Ganyi-Gaha prayer and blessing, Friday's ceremony included a mother-daughter throat-singing duo, a drumming circle and traditional dancers from Ndage, and performance by Uji Kriya electronic artist Anaknid. Festival organizers also erected a Two-Spirit space this year, overseen by an Indigenous knowledge keeper, available to take questions and provide guidance. It's time for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll find out what one town is doing to tackle addictions in their community. But first, let's take a look at a story we'll be bringing you soon.
I'm Kent Driscoll, and this is Unnamed Lake, about 3 kilometers east of Iqaluit. Iqaluit's water shortage is in its 2nd year, and the city will begin pumping water from this lake into Iqaluit's reservoir. How is a city of just 7,000 people, surrounded by lakes and rivers, running out of water? And how will the city get to this water, located in an area many vehicles cannot reach? That's coming soon on APTN National News.
And tomorrow's weather: 0 in St. John, 23 and showers in Charlottetown. Nain is 12 with showers. Happy Valley Goose Bay also wet at 17. Val-d'Or is partly cloudy and plus 20. St. Joliet is 24 and more sun. Peterborough has a little cloud at 25. Windsor is rainy at 27. Timmins is rainy at 17. Sudbury partly cloudy and 23. Churchill is cloudy and a warm 21. Thompson also warm at 23. Princess Harbour is rainy at 24. Gimli more rain, also 24. North Battleford has some rain at 19. Swift Current is sunny and same 19. Stony Rapids is partly sunny with 22. La Ronge also 22. Welcome back. Officials in a small town in northwestern Ontario say they are in desperate need of help. Sioux Lookout sits about 400 kilometers northwest of Thunder Bay. It's a hub for First Nations in northern Ontario, and that is adding to the challenges the community is facing as First Nations in the area struggle with addictions and mental health issues. Willow Fiddler brings us this report, which originally aired earlier this summer.
Shannon Turtle is familiar with the streets of Sioux Lookout.
We would always hang around downtown, and I guess they say chip in for a bottle. Like, anybody that had money, you better come with me or come with us.
It's been 15 years since Turtle went to treatment for her alcohol and drug addictions, but while she may no longer be using, the addictions problem in Sioux Lookout hasn't gone away. This past spring, the mayor declared a mental health, addictions, and homelessness crisis.
Well, an ongoing crisis. It's been here for really decades, and it's growing and growing. And so there's been an out-migration of people from the north, and then people brought out for justice reasons as well and healthcare reasons. And many of those people who end up here on the streets are here with mental health addictions issues.
Sioux Lookout is a small town of about 6,000 people in northwestern Ontario. About half are First Nations. The municipality sits on Treaty 3 traditional territory. To the north are 49 communities from Treaties 5 and 9, also known as Anishinaabe Nation. In the summer, the area is a popular tourist destination for Americans. But Lawrence says the town's economy is 70% based on serving First Nations.
So if you're a teacher, there's probably 6 or 7 chances in 10 you're here because Northern First Nation students are here either at Pelican Falls High School, at the local public board high school, or at the various training centers. If you're in healthcare, it's probably because 85% of the people that go through the Minnehaha Health Center are Indigenous, coming from the north.
Like many families in the north, Shannon Turtle's mom relocated her family to Sioux Lookout to continue her education. But before long, Turtle was getting into trouble and was in and out of jail until she was about 20.
There was more things happening, I guess, in my life at the time where I didn't deal with anything.
The mayor says the intergenerational trauma from government policies like residential schools is undeniable here and visible on the streets. Susan Barkley sees it every day at the emergency shelter. She says 680 people came through their doors last year.
Not all of the folks that you might see downtown are using the shelter. Many of them are not. Many of them have their own place to live, whether it's here or possibly close by. Some people are at the hostel because they're here for medical, and they wander downtown and they hang out with their friends and then they go back.
Last year, this 20-unit supportive housing complex opened to tenants who pay rent and have access to local supports and services. The mayor says within months, calls for service to police went down 60%.
So we need more of that. That's just a drop in the bucket. It could be a 60 unit. We need transitional housing, something where people can go who maybe aren't quite ready to go into supportive housing, but with more supports even.
When Shannon Turtle decided she needed help, she had to leave Sioux Lookout. The closest detox and treatment centers are in Kenora and Thunder Bay, both hundreds of kilometers away. Another major barrier for people looking for help from Sioux Lookout and the north.
You know, to get into a detox, you have to phone every day to check on a bad situation. And the closest one we've been able to get people to say, yes, we have a bed, was Sault Ste. Marie. But there's another big barrier because most of our folks don't have IDs and they can't fly.
Barclay says it's critical that more resources are poured into the First Nations, not just Sioux Lookout.
And those services, though, have to be consistent and sustainable. It can't be somebody popping in to do a program or a workshop and then popping back out. You need to have health and mental health services in the community.
The mayor says a 4-party task force with a commitment from municipal, provincial, federal governments and area First Nations can create a path out of their crisis.
So instead of recycling people through criminalizing behavior, which is mental health addictions related, instead of criminalizing that behavior, let's triage them and say, all right, what would best serve this person? Get them out of that system into something that gives them a chance to succeed.
The mental health and addictions program at the health center is limited to outpatient and counseling services.
We need a detox center. We don't have a detox here. We need more. We need a fully resourced emergency shelter. We right now have basically it's a large old house, and there's room for 20 mats on the floor. People are sleeping on mats on the floor, wall to wall.
Turtle recently graduated with a nursing degree and is preparing to write her nursing exam. But she says addiction is forever.
Like, I'm still trying to find myself and realizing that there is positive things out there, and for you just to go out and do it, it's not that simple, I know, but to just continue to keep asking for help or talking to others.
The mayor says he's meeting with Treaty 3 Grand Chief in a few weeks and Liberal MP Bob Nault to discuss plans soon. Willow Fiddler, APTN National News, Sioux Lookout.
Alberta made a big announcement today for sports. After the break, we'll find out what that announcement was. But first, let's look at the rest of tomorrow's weather. The rest of the weather, in high level it's sunny and 25, Fort McMurray rainy and 23. Calgary is a little bit of cloud and 21, Medicine Hat rainy and 24. Kamloops is more rain but 29, Quisal is rainy and 20. Dease Lake is sunny with 22, Smithers is rainy and also 22. Rock River is rainy at 13. Watson Lake has sun at 21. Wrigley has some rain at 19. Fort Liard also rainy but 25. Inuvik is rainy and 13. Sax Harbor more rain and 8 degrees. Repulse Bay is sunny tomorrow at 10 degrees. Baker Lake cloudy at 15. Clyde River has a little bit of cloud at 9 degrees. Resolute is rainy and 6 degrees. Welcome back. The Indigenous Sport Council of Alberta will be receiving nearly $1 million over 2 years to help Indigenous youth access the province and have more access to participating in sport. Federal Minister of Science and Sport Christy Duncan made the announcement in Edmonton. The money is part of a $47 million fund over 5 years to expand access to sports in Indigenous communities across the country. The money will be available in Alberta for all skill levels of sports. Alberta is the first province to receive money from the fund.
In addition to the social benefits, our youth might discover they have a passion for sport and go on to train and compete in local competitions or even major events like the North American Indigenous Games. As many of you here know, the very first edition of the Indigenous Games took place right here in Edmonton, almost 30 years ago in 1990. So it's fitting that we're here today.
When it comes to National Aboriginal Hockey Championships, Saskatchewan is the standard. At this year's competition in Whitehorse, the girls won gold while the boys took home silver. In 2020, we'll get a good look at how strong the province is as Regina plays host to the event. CTV's Christina Ajikute reports.
With the unveiling of a new logo, Saskatchewan is now only 10 months away from the 19th annual National Aboriginal Hockey Championships. This will be the first time the Queen City will host the competition. Both the FSIN and the city say they'll be ready to host up to 5,000 visitors from May 9th to the 16th.
I think it's going to be an exciting week in May, and we're working on it to make it one of the best championships that we've ever hosted.
It showcases our city. It showcases a lot of incredibly talented hockey players, boys and girls, 13 to 18 years old.
This is the fourth time the NAHC will take place in Saskatchewan, and for many young athletes, this is also a time for them to perfect their skills. 19-year-old Roddy Ross from Meadow Lake plays for the WHL's Seattle Thunderbirds as a goalie. He competed in the NAHC for the last 3 years. He says the competition helps grow the next wave of professional Indigenous hockey players who have dreams to play in the NHL.
You want to play in this tournament. This is a tournament that's been growing for quite some years, and it's only getting better.
We had players that that played in this event. The King family, Stanley Cup champion with Los Angeles Kings, participated here. We had Ethan Bear from Uchapois, played with the Oilers.
20 teams from across the country will compete for the trophy and bragging rights for the year. FSIN Vice Chief Morley Watson says Saskatchewan has up to 50 players to choose from, and Team Saskatchewan will be represented with both a boys and girls team, ranging from elite bantam and midget-aged hockey players.
You have to have certain grades in school as well as attendance. You have to be in good standing with your school, so our young people realize that.
According to the FSIN, the championships will also be good for businesses in the city, as it's expected to bring a total of $5 million to the Saskatchewan economy. Christina Ajikute, CTV News, Regina.
Great news for hockey fans. If you're not a fishing pro, the bears you're about to see will show you how it's done. Brown bears at Brooks River in Alaska, taking a dip and feasting on salmon. The waterfalls create a barrier for the fish, creating an all-you-can-eat style meal. Electric car sales in Canada jumped significantly in the first half of 2019, which experts say is largely thanks to the federal government's new rebate program. Sales of electronic vehicles have risen by 30% since January. Ottawa began offering rebates of up to $5,000 on some electric cars in May. Transport Canada says that more than 14,000 electric vehicles were purchased in the first 3 months of the program. It's part of the Canadian government's goal to have 10% of all cars sold to be zero emission by 2025. Thank you for joining us today. Come back tomorrow to see more of the latest Indigenous news. You can also visit our website at aptn.ca or download our APTN News app. See you back here tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening.